Imagine a kingdom of unimaginable wealth and power, an island continent shimmering with grand palaces, intricate canals, and golden temples. This was Atlantis, a naval superpower that ruled the seas, a civilization at the pinnacle of human achievement. And then, in a single, catastrophic day and night, it vanished, swallowed by the ocean, leaving behind only a legend. This story, first told by the Greek philosopher Plato over 2,300 years ago, has captivated humanity ever since. It's a tale of a lost utopia, a sunken paradise. But was Atlantis ever real, or was it just a clever story? A philosophical lesson crafted by one of history's greatest minds. Today, we dive deep into one of the most enduring mysteries of all time. We'll explore where the story came from, the most compelling theories about its location, and why. After centuries of searching, we are still so obsessed with finding the lost city of Atlantis. Let's start at the source. Plato introduced Atlantis in two of his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. He claimed the story wasn't his own, but one passed down from the Athenian statesman Solon. Around 590 BC, Solon supposedly visited Egypt, where priests told him of an ancient war. They spoke of a mighty island empire, located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. This empire, Atlantis, was larger than North Africa and Asia Minor combined. It had conquered parts of Europe and Africa, but was ultimately defeated in a great battle by the ancient Athenians. According to Plato's account, Atlantis was a marvel of engineering and natural abundance, a confederation of 10 kingdoms ruled by the descendants of the sea god Poseidon. But as generations passed, the divine nature of its people died. They became greedy, corrupt, and arrogant. Their hubris angered the gods, who decided to deliver a terrible punishment. In a single day and a single night of violent earthquakes and floods, the island of Atlantis sank beneath the waves, disappearing from the world forever. This brings us to our first big question. Was Plato writing history, or was he writing a fable? For centuries, many took the story as gospel truth. But today, most classical scholars believe Atlantis was a fictional invention, an allegory. Plato may have created this story of a fallen empire to make a philosophical point. He used it as a cautionary tale, warning his fellow Athenians about the dangers of imperial ambition, moral decay, and the corrupting influence of power. By contrasting the virtuous idealized ancient Athens with the decadent, hubristic Atlantis, he was creating a powerful political and moral thought experiment. But let's be honest, the idea of it being just a story is a little disappointing, isn't it? The possibility of a real, sunken, advanced civilization is just too alluring to let go. And for that reason, the hunt for Atlantis has never really stopped. Explorers, scholars, and adventurers have proposed countless locations for the lost city, sparking debates that continue to this day. So, let's look at some of the most popular theories. Perhaps the most famous candidate is the Greek island of Santorini, known in antiquity as Thera. Around 1600 BC, this island, home to the sophisticated Minoan civilization, was torn apart by one of the largest volcanic eruptions in human history. The blast triggered colossal tsunamis that devastated coastlines across the Aegean Sea and contributed to the mysterious collapse of the Minoan culture on the nearby island of Crete. The parallels are striking. A powerful island civilization, advanced for its time, destroyed by a sudden natural cataclysm. Proponents of this theory suggest that the memory of this real disaster was passed down through generations, eventually reaching Plato, who embellished it, changed the location, and exaggerated the timeline to fit his philosophical narrative. The circular shape of the Santorini caldera even matches Plato's description of the concentric rings of land and water that made up the Atlantean capital. Another compelling idea takes us to the Black Sea. Geological evidence suggests that around 5600 BC, the Mediterranean Sea breached a natural dam at the Bosporus Strait, causing a catastrophic flood. Seawater rushed into what was then a smaller freshwater lake, rapidly raising its level by hundreds of feet and submerging vast areas of coastline. This event would have been an apocalypse for the Neolithic cultures living there. It's possible that this great flood, as it's sometimes called, became the seed for flood myths across the region, including, perhaps, Plato's story of a land consumed by the sea. Over the years, The proposed locations have gotten even more exotic. Some have pointed to the Azores Islands in the mid-Atlantic, remnants of a larger sunken landmass. Others have looked to the Caribbean, Antarctica, or even a strange, submerged circular feature off the coast of West Africa known as the Richet structure. More recently, attention has turned to southern Spain, just outside the Pillars of Hercules. Researchers using satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar have claimed to find evidence of a submerged city near Donana National Park. They point to large, rectangular features and concentric rings buried in the marshlands, arguing that they match Plato's description of Atlantis and that a tsunami could have wiped the city out. However, these findings are highly contested. Many geologists and archaeologists argue that these formations are entirely natural, or the misinterpreted remains of much later Roman or other local settlements. And that's the fundamental problem with every single theory. Despite all the speculation and searching, there is no definitive smoking gun evidence. No underwater ruins, no Atlantean artifacts, no inscriptions that say "Welcome to Atlantis." The only primary source for this entire magnificent story is Plato. Every other mention of Atlantis, from ancient times to today, can be traced back to his two dialogues. As one skeptic famously put it, the only source for Atlantis is Plato. The only source for Plato is Plato. So, what if the greatest mystery of Atlantis is that there is no mystery? What if Plato just made it all up? This is where the story gets really interesting. By creating a fictional enemy, Plato could glorify his own city, Athens. He crafted a narrative where a small, just, and morally upright state triumphed over a massive, wealthy, and corrupt empire. It's a classic underdog story, a powerful piece of patriotic propaganda, and a timeless lesson on virtue and vice. The details he provides, the specific measurements, the elaborate history might have just been literary devices to make his allegory more believable and compelling. And yet, even if it is just a story, its legacy is undeniably real. The idea of Atlantis has inspired countless books, movies, and TV shows. It has fueled pseudoscientific theories about ancient aliens and lost technologies. It taps into a deep, primal part of the human psyche. We are drawn to the idea of a lost golden age, a time when humanity was more advanced, more enlightened, before it all came crashing down. The story of Atlantis is a story of hope and of warning. It gives us the hope that we can achieve greatness, but warns us that our own arrogance can be our undoing. So why do we keep searching? Why does this 2,300-year-old story still have such a powerful grip on our imagination? I think it's because Atlantis acts as a mirror. When we look for Atlantis, we are also looking at ourselves. We see our aspirations for a perfect society, our fears of natural disaster and societal collapse, and our fascination with the vast, unknown depths of the ocean. The search for Atlantis is, in many ways, a search for meaning in our own past and a guide for our future. So, what do you think? Was Atlantis a real place? A magnificent kingdom now sleeping on the ocean floor, waiting to be discovered? Or is it one of the most successful and enduring works of fiction ever written? The evidence overwhelmingly points to it being a brilliant myth. But that tiny sliver of a chance, that tantalizing possibility that it's real, is what keeps the legend alive. Whether fact or fiction, Atlantis remains a powerful symbol of our dreams and our fears. It reminds us that even the greatest civilizations can fall, and that the ocean may still hold ancient secrets. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey. If you enjoyed this dive into history and mystery, please hit that like button and subscribe for more adventures into the past. Let me know your theory about Atlantis in the comments below. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and never stop wondering about the stories that time has left behind.